you just had your second baby pretty recently, right?
I did. Yeah, she's 5 months.
Okay, because I remember a while back, I was going to ask you to come on the show. And I was like, she just had a newborn. Maybe this isn't the
I
best
appreciate that.
time. Glad that we could get this going 5 months later. What's up, guys? Amanda Smith here with Kris Budden. You got your water, ready to go.
Ready to go.
The Amanda Smith Show.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to do this.
So I saw a tweet you put out just recently, and you said, this is going to be your fourth season with ESPN, but even now, you will still look around the room at your coworkers and be like, how did I get so lucky? How would you describe what your journey has been like to get to that point of, I can't believe this is my job?
Yeah, I mean, my journey is a lot of what, there's a new generation that has taken all these different paths to get to where I'm at. When I went through my journey, it was a lot of people going through local news. So I went to University of Missouri. I then went to work at a triopoly in Charlottesville. I then went to Knoxville, where I stayed for 6 years, and just kind of worked my way up. Then I went to Fox and then to ESPN. But even still, so I'm 35, and I think people are like, oh my gosh, you made it. But I still look around at that room and I'm like, Kirk Herbstreit's there and Tom Rinaldi and like these people that if I said this to them now, they'd be like, don't say I'm that old. But like people that I grew up watching game day with, like that I'm sharing a seminar and a seat next to them is still like, even to this day, like just so weird to me.
On the last show that I talked with Cassidy Hubbard, and she talked about when it comes to jobs, it's not just about being told no, but also understanding when you yourself need to say no to something and knowing what are the right opportunities for you.
Yeah.
Were there any decisions throughout your career that you had to make like that?
A couple, and like even my first job, I graduated in May. I didn't get my first job until November. So there was 6 months there where I was like answering the telephone stations at a local TV or the phone at the local TV station. But I got a job opportunity in Montgomery, Alabama, and it would be covering. I would have done a show called TNT, Tide and Tigers, which I thought was going to be really cool. But it was at this station where like I would have also been the news director, and like it was just a very weird operation. And I was like, I'm not going to learn. Like I still need to learn. So I didn't take that job because I didn't know. I still needed to learn from people, and like I didn't need to be the news director at 22. Like I needed a news director. And then there were some other, when I was trying to leave Knoxville, I had several interviews. I had one in Nashville. I had one in Atlanta. I had one in Boston that I really wanted. And funny enough, when I left the interview, everyone at the station loved me. And they said, study your Boston sports because we're going to hire you. And then 2 days later, I get a call from my agent that the owner of the station didn't like my look. So I was heartbroken. Then I went on to meet the girl that got that job, and we don't look dissimilar. Like she's long blonde hair, and but all that stuff happens for a reason. And so I ended up turning down the job in Atlanta because they were going to pay me the exact same money I was going to make in Knoxville for a way bigger city, a lot higher cost of living, and I just didn't feel like I was being valued for that spot. Same thing. I turned down the job in Nashville because it was less money that I was going to make in Knoxville. And I just kept holding out. And then I got the job doing sidelines for the NFL on Fox. So sometimes you had to trust your gut because all of this stuff is still a learning process. Like I went to Fox where I learned from Pam Oliver. And so you got to figure out what is always the best fit for you.
When you have maybe moments, like you said, where someone says, I don't like your look, you're not right for this job, how do you let that not kind of hinder that self-confidence that you have?
Well, I mean, it does. I mean, there's no way when someone says that to you, you're just like, oh, I don't care. Like,
right.
I look back on it now and I don't care. But in the moment, my fiance, my now husband, took a video of me where I'm bawling on the couch saying I wanted to stick my head in a garbage disposal.
Good
so which he has now played several times for me. So, I mean, in the moment, I mean, you had to let it soak in, you had to process it, and you had to like mourn that opportunity. But then the next day it was, okay, I can't do anything about that now. Let's move on. In this business is funny too, because, you know, people want diversity. So if there was already a blonde female in the sports department, maybe they don't want that. So, you know, a lot of times you just have to get used to the fact that in today's world, when people hire, they want it to look like the rest of America. So they have to have diversity. And sometimes your look may not be what they're wanting. And so while I was mad for like a day, I tried to put it behind me.
Do you see room within the workplace or different networks and industries where more diversity could be included?
Yeah, I mean, I think ESPN has done a really good job of creating diversity, and I just think it comes with time too. Like, I remember when I was job searching in local news, like I wouldn't apply to a station that had an opening if there was already another female there, because I was like, they wouldn't have two females. Now I think so. So things are constantly changing. I think nowadays there are stations with two females, but it's still kind of a work in progress.
Well, you have your own blog called Touchdowns and Tantrums, where you talk about life as a working mom.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration behind starting it?
I just really like to write. And, you know, on Twitter, you get 180 characters or whatever it is now. And, you know, Instagram, I just missed writing. And I got to do it a lot more in local news when I get to write features. And I don't get to do it as much at ESPN because we have wonderful people like Tom Rinaldi that do it. So I just wanted to get back to writing. And I felt like I had a lot of stories to share. I felt like I would watch a lot of women in my position who had kids, like Sam Ponder, who made it look so easy. She was lying to all of us. You know, you only see what you see on Instagram, and she'll now tell you none of it has ever been what our day-to-day life is with kids. And I think, honestly, like, it's helped a lot in my job because they don't go in blind, being like, I'm going to have a kid, and the kid's just going to come with me to all my football games. Like, it doesn't work like that. And so I've gotten a lot of really good feedback in saying that it helps the other women that have decided, I think I want to start a family, and I can see that it's possible.
What's been one of your favorite pieces that you've gotten to write?
I think probably one that I wrote a couple weeks or months ago. There was a ABC News correspondent who had come out, and she basically said it's impossible to have this job and have a family, so she quit. And I didn't like that advice because you just make it work. And if it was too much time away from your family for you, then that's what's for you. But I saw this like article like going around on all these female sportscasters and TV, like Facebook groups that I'm a part of. And I would see these responses from people, and they would say, you know what, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and quit now if it's impossible to have a family and do this job. And I'm like, what a horrible, like, let people figure it out on their own. You know, you do what makes you happy, but don't tell people it's impossible, because it certainly is. Yes, there is a lot of sacrifice. Yes, there's a lot of time that I spend away from my kids, but I also worked really hard to get to this point. I also feel like I'm a better mom when I go away for 2 days, because all summer, like when I was on maternity leave and I was home for 12 weeks with a 3-year-old and a newborn, like I was going to go stir crazy. I am a better mom if I get away. And I tell this to people who, like, Laura Ridge is pregnant right now. And I was telling her, I said, listen, she's like, I just want to be a good mom and a good wife. And I said, to me, a good mom is a happy mom. So for some people that may be staying home. For me, it's working. And I don't think that that's fair for people to put their opinions out there as if that is the flat opinion that everyone else should have. I can't do this job because it's impossible with a family.
Ashley Adamson was on the Amanda Smith show. I don't know why to say it like that. That's how I heard it in my head. But she kind of said a similar thing, that she also feels that ever since she's become a mom, she feels like she's just a better reporter too, that she's able to better connect with people's parents and understand a different perspective. Have you felt the same at all?
100%. I remember, and I wrote a blog about like hiding my first pregnancy because I thought female sportscasters should be skinny and beautiful. And when you're pregnant, you feel anything but that. And so I hid it. And what I didn't realize is that I having a family, I am more in common with the people that I cover, not necessarily the players, but the coaches. And like, I feel like their respect for me has grown because they understand what I'm going through on days that I'm not working. And I'll have coaches that, texted me and congratulated me when I just had my daughter. And so I feel like I connect with them on a personal level. It's no longer just like, hey, how's it going? How's your quarterback doing? It's, hey, how's the family? How are your kids? How are your wife? And so I feel like I connect with my subjects better on that. I also feel like I'm so much more empathetic to some of the stories that I cover, and to a point where sometimes it's hard for me to hold my emotions back. Covering a death of a son. I did the College World Series this past year, and there was a family who lost their son when he was a freshman at Vanderbilt. He drowned, and they were there. It would have been his senior year. So they were there to watch Vanderbilt, and they won, they celebrated, and they were on the stand like with the trophy presentation. And I remember like I could not keep it together because now as a mom, I can't even begin to fathom what that would be like to lose a child. So I feel like it's maybe more empathetic, but almost to a detriment to where like sometimes it's hard for like you feel like that choke like coming up in your throat and you're like, keep it down, And so that I find a lot when I cover certain stories.
So, quick little fill in the blank college football edition for y'all today. Okay, so don't sleep on blank because.
Ooh, don't sleep on Nebraska. I think they'll be really good this year. They didn't get anything in the top. They didn't get into the top 25 in the coaches poll, but I think that the way their schedule works out, I think they'll be better than people expect.
Watch out, y'all. A matchup I'm most looking forward to is.
Well, I'm just going to say week 1, we have Utah and BYU, which is a big rivalry, and that's our game that we're doing. So that's one I can't wait because that's week 1 for us.
You know that I live here? I live here.
No way.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Come the game. Yes.
If I could describe this upcoming college football season in one word, it would be.
Ooh, one word. 5.0.
Okay.
For Clemson, Alabama.
Early prediction, but blank wins it all.
Clemson.
I'm going to pull this clip. If Clemson wins, post it on Twitter.
Mark it down.
I like everyone's predictions. Mark down. Got it.
That's awesome.
We had some good fan questions for you. So, Brandon C. Smith 5 says, you're amazing and he loves watching you.
Oh, thank you.
Love a good little shout out. Your career spans around many different sports. What's one sport you haven't covered that you'd love to?
In person, it would be tennis. My family is a big tennis family, and I worked at the tennis channel, but I would love to be like a host at tennis events and be the next Kris McKendry one day.
Have you played tennis?
I did, yes. That's actually how my husband and I met. So he played tennis. He coached. He was way better than I am, but we met playing tennis. Yeah.
I took a few tennis lessons. That was horrible. Not good. No coordination there. Okay, so Steph Mards would like to know, what is something people wouldn't know about you?
Oh, I had scoliosis surgery when I was 12, and my entire spine is fused from top to bottom.
That's a big one.
And I have 2 18-inch rods in my back.
So at the airport, does it like go off?
No, but like there's this weird spot because the surgery was 8 hours, and there's like this weird spot on my stomach that's completely numb from like laying there. What else? Oh, when like a year after the surgery, when you go in for your like checkup, my mom, I was 13, and my mom's like, "Can she have an epidural later?" And I was like, "That's gross, Mom. Why would you ever ask that?" She's like, "You're gonna want to know one day." So,
oh my god,
yeah, that's the only repercussion is that, and I can't slouch, but that's about it.
You can't slouch?
No, so I just have really good posture.
You just have great posture.
Yeah. I've had people be like, "Are you a ballerina?" I'm like, no, my spine's just fused.
Dragon Ball Drew says, from a journalist perspective, what's the allure of college sports as opposed to pro?
The authenticity of the players and the coaches. Every game matters versus like the NFL season. You can lose 6 games and still win the Super Bowl. You can't do that in college football. The traditions at every stadium and the fan base, the tailgating versus the NFL. A lot of times, because I did 2 seasons of NFL, everything's kind of the same. There's a uniqueness to each different college fan base.
All right, final question coming up from Swashbucklers. And they would like to know an interview you'll never forget.
Ooh, there's a couple. The one that comes to mind is there was a quarterback, Mike Bercovici, and he was a backup quarterback at Arizona State, and they were traveling to USC, which was like 11 miles from his home. This was his first start he ever had, and he won it on a Hail Mary. And he's like on the ground crying, and like his teammates are lifting him up, and I interviewed him in that moment. And I just remember thinking, like, this is the best moment this kid will ever have in his athletic career, and I get to be there for it. Oh, and one more, because there's too many. Like most people think of like national championships, but like there's so many other moments that go unnoticed. There's a pitcher, Ian Kennedy, who was with the Padres, and his wife was about to have her 4th baby. We were in Miami, and she was in LA, so he's supposed to pitch that day. So she gets the news she's in labor. He goes to the airport, and he's about to fly home. Well, there's a storm, and so he's stuck on the plane. They don't leave. And so he's FaceTiming with her, and she says, listen, you're never going to make it in time for the birth. Why don't you get off the plane so at least we can FaceTime through it. At least you can kind of be there. So he did. He FaceTimed through the birth, and he went and he pitched that night. Because the way that it works out, if he pitches, then he gets 4 days off plus 3 days of paternity leave. So he pitched that night. He pitched an 8-inning shutout. They brought him out in the ninth so that he could get a standing ovation, and he walks in the clubhouse, and he's bawling. And all of his teammates are crying with him, and I got to interview him after that. So those are like things that no one realizes because it's not like confetti falling down, but those are like the really special ones.
Kris, thank you so much for
thank you, Amanda.
Today. It's been so fun to get to know you a little bit, and I really appreciate
it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, for Kris Budden, I'm Amanda Smith. We'll see you next time.